Have you ever felt that behind a warm smile there might be a heart full of uncertainties? Or that the person who seems so confident is actually trembling inside when faced with their own reflection? The truth is, we all wear masks. Some so well fitted that even we start to believe in them. But what if I told you that, in fleeting everyday moments, someone's true essence slips through the cracks of those masks? Imagine walking down a busy street. How many of those souls do you really know? How many of them show who they are and not just who they want to be seen as? We live in a world that values packaging more than content, where appearing often wins over being. But here's the secret. Character doesn't hide in grand speeches. It reveals itself in the details no one notices. Why does that matter? Because in the end, we all want to connect with what's real. Have you ever been disappointed to find out someone wasn't who they seemed? Or asked yourself whether, in the silence of solitude, you live up to the truth you preach out loud? The good news is there are two simple, almost invisible, paths that lead straight to a person's soul, and they're not found in what someone says, but in what they do when they believe no one is watching. Want to find out what they are? Before we dive into this journey, pause for a moment, breathe, and ask yourself, who are you when the lights go out, and only the mirror bears witness? Because in the end, authenticity isn't about impressing others. It's about finding the courage to be seen, even when there's no audience. The mirror of small actions. Some of the deepest truths about who we are aren't shouted, they whisper. And no whisper is more revealing than the way we treat those who can give us nothing in return. Think about the last time you saw someone belittle a waiter for a simple mistake, or ignore a homeless person as if they didn't exist. These are not just moments of rudeness. They are cracks in the polished surface of a persona, letting slip what truly lives within. The doorman in your building, the office cleaner, the delivery person who climbs 3 flights of stairs. These are the mirrors that reflect our humanity. When there are no accolades to gain, no favors to earn, what's left is pure character. A truly upright person doesn't unload their frustration on someone beneath them in life's imaginary hierarchy. They understand. Dignity is not a privilege. It's a right every human being deserves. Can you tell the difference between strategic kindness and genuine compassion? The first one calculates, will this benefit me? The second simply flows because it sees the other as equal. It's not about being a saint. It's about not needing to feel superior in order to exist. Carl Jung said our shadow, the part of ourselves we deny, tends to appear when we least expect it. And where does it love to show up? In interactions, where the ego senses it can dominate without consequences. The way we speak to those who can't fight back says more about us than all our self-help speeches combined. But this isn't a judgment. It's an invitation. Observe without criticizing, including yourself. How many times has your exhaustion turned a clerk into a target? How many times has stress made you treat a stranger as an obstacle? The beauty lies in noticing these patterns, because only then can we choose to change them. In the silence of those everyday choices, we either build or destroy our own essence. And in the end, what remains isn't what we achieved. It's the trail we left in the souls of others. The weight of unspoken words. When someone promises to arrive at 8 and shows up at 9 without warning, they're not just late. They're revealing how they treat their own word. It's not the signed contracts that define our character, but those invisible agreements made between souls. That, "I'll call you tomorrow," that turns into silence. The "let's set something up" that never happens. Within these gaps between what's said and what's done lies our true measure. Think about the last time you trusted someone, blindly. What happened? Did they show up with the coffee you planned to share? Or did they come up with an excuse when you needed them most? Promises are like seeds. Some grow into strong trees of trust, others wither before even touching the ground. The problem is never in failing. We all fail, but in how we respond when our words lose their footing. There's a vast difference between someone who says, "I'm sorry, I was wrong," and someone who mutters, "You're overreacting." One acknowledges the break, the other denies the damage. Brené Brown teaches us that the vulnerability to admit failure builds bridges, while the arrogance to justify it builds walls. Notice how people honor or ignore micro-commitments. The coworker who always returns borrowed books on time, the friend who arrives 5 minutes early, the partner who remembers that small favor promised months ago. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency. Our actions are love letters or farewells to ourselves. Every time we keep a promise, even when it hurts, we're saying, "My word has value." And when we break one without making amends, we're teaching others, and our own conscience, that we're not worthy of trust. In the end, life doesn't hold us accountable for the promises others broke, but for the ones we ourselves let fall. Because integrity isn't what we do when everyone's watching. It's what we choose when only the mirror bears witness. The invisible legacy. Behind the scenes of life, when the curtains close and the audience leaves, our simplest actions become silent prayers. It's not the spotlight that reveals who we are, but how we move in the shadows. That moment when you could have lied, but chose the uncomfortable truth. The day when no one would have noticed if you kept walking, but you stopped to listen. The world watches you more than you think. Not for the grand gestures, but for the subtle slips of character. The coin you returned to the wrong cashier, the compliment you gave without witnesses, the commitment you honored even when it would have been easy to make an excuse. These are the bricks with which we build our inner home. Authenticity doesn't need an audience to exist. It pulses in the in-betweens, in the spaces between who we are and who we pretend to be. When you stop performing for others and begin answering to yourself, something magical happens. Your values stop being distant ideals and become flesh and bone. Don't be fooled. This journey isn't about becoming perfect, but about becoming whole. Every time you treat a stranger with dignity or uphold a seemingly insignificant promise, you're stitching together the fabric of your own integrity. In the end, we won't be judged by what we achieved, but by what flowed from our core when we thought no one was watching. Because the universe always is. And the person who needs your truth the most, the one you see in the mirror every morning, never stops watching. The greatest gift we can give the world isn't what we do for recognition, but what we do out of pure soul coherence. When everything is over, it will be those invisible moments that define who we truly were. When eyes choose not to see, there is a crucial moment that defines who we are, that split second between witnessing an injustice and deciding what to do about it. Have you ever seen someone being humiliated in public and felt your body freeze? Or watched a colleague be bullied while the group chuckled quietly? In those fractions of time, our humanity is tested without warning. Silence in the face of someone else's suffering is never neutral. It whispers, "This isn't my problem," while feeding the pain of the other. Think back to the last time you saw something wrong. That inner discomfort was your conscience knocking, asking to be heard. Indifference doesn't come from a lack of perception, but from an excess of fear. Fear of getting involved, of upsetting others, of becoming the next target. But what about when the situation is reversed? When you're the one in need of help, how many in the crowd pretend not to notice? There's a cruel irony in how everyone wants rescue, but few are willing to extend a hand first. True character isn't just measured by our actions, but by the fires we choose not to extinguish when we hold water in our hands. Some justify passivity with, "I don't want trouble," not realizing that the trouble chose them the moment they turned away. Others act as if small injustices are insignificant, forgetting that evil thrives best in soil no one dares to disturb. Have you noticed how young children instinctively shout, "That's not fair"? They haven't yet learned to calculate risk or popularity. That moral clarity fades when we begin weighing consequences instead of principles. In the end, we will be remembered not only for what we did, but for what we allowed to happen beside us. Because in life's grand theater, even the spectators are complicit, especially when they know they could have stepped onto the stage. Next time you witness something wrong, listen to that discomfort in your chest. It's not there by accident. The ethics of anonymity. The true moral test doesn't occur when we're being watched, but when we believe we're completely alone. How do you act when no one can praise or judge you? That harsh comment made under a pseudonym, the small cheat no one would notice, the disrespect you allowed because there were no witnesses. These are soul X-rays. In the empty streets at dawn, in front of a computer screen, or in the loopholes where rules seem flexible, your essence appears without makeup. Do you return a lost wallet even when there are no cameras around? Do you help the elderly person who stumbles, even when no applause awaits? There's a tragic beauty in how we transform when the social stage disappears. Some become worse versions of themselves, unleashing cruelty they usually restrain. Others, surprisingly, reveal their best side, when there's no applause to earn and no reputation to build. Character is not what we do for recognition, but what we choose to do when only our conscience is watching. Every invisible act of integrity is a brick in the construction of who we really are, and every hidden slip is a crack in that same foundation. In the end, we won't be judged by what we showed the world, but by what we did in the moments, when the world wasn't watching, because life has a strange way of turning our secret acts into our most visible truth.